Hey, hello everyone, and welcome to Cosmere Counseling, a podcast exploring therapeutic lessons we can glean from the work of our favorite author, Brandon Sanderson. I'm Joseph, a licensed marriage and family therapist.
I'm Danielle, a board-certified behavior analyst.
And I'm Garrett, also a board-certified behavior analyst.
Our spoiler warning today will contain spoilers from Stormlight Archive 1 through 5, kind of, and Words of Brandon, probably not novellas. Everything that's going to come from Wind and Truth is more like realmatic theory stuff, not really like fates of characters, I don't think. But yeah, we're starting to step into it a little bit.
Okay.
And today's topic, we're looking at Kaladin and how to find or create meaning in our lives despite our circumstances or changes in our lives. I know we talked a lot in episode 1 about identifying and working towards your values. And I wanted to expound more onto that today by looking at some specific ways to work towards your values through the perspective of what's called job crafting and its extension, life crafting.
Right. And I think we all do. We've all done some aspect of that with our clients in our professional capacities and
ourselves.
Right.
I do it on myself a lot.
Oh, same. All the time.
But job crafting, it's originally from decades ago. It was developed for employees in the workplace. So the whole idea is I have these employees, they have to do the same things. They can't change what they do for their job. You have to do what you do for your job. But job crafting gives them strategies to take charge of their job and control whatever things that they can, whether that's finding ways to maximize what's meaningful to them or leaning into their strengths. And even though some things of the job can't be changed, they can look for what they can do to make their job most meaningful for them. And then in recent years, the term life crafting has come up because the same thing happens in our lives. We're dealt a certain hand, and then we can choose how we arrange our life, how we think about our life to make the best of what we have been dealt.
Right, because there's actually a lot of people that I've met with. Part of their biggest struggle is they often try to control the things that they cannot control in their life, and that just makes them a lot more anxious and depressed because they can't do anything about those things, and that traps themselves in a negative cycle. And when we're able to focus on what they can control, that oftentimes improve their overall life satisfaction and their feeling of hope.
Right. Yeah, the first thought is always, my job sucks because my boss sucks.
You can't change your boss. Or it's my pay sucks. I don't get paid enough to do this. My pay is just not good enough.
Right.
But we're going to look at how to take what you can control in your life and do something about it, because Kaladin is a master of this. He has dealt so many poor hands, and boy, does he always find a way to come out on top.
Right. And I think that's what made Kaladin's story arc such a inspiring one to so many readers, is that he consistently faces really almost insurmountable obstacles, and yet he finds a way to triumph over it. And not only for himself, but also for those around him.
Garrett, could you give us a summary of Kaladin's arc in relation to job crafting?
Yeah, for sure. So Kaladin, despite struggling with some of his rumination on his circumstances, he often pulls through as a master of job crafting or life crafting throughout his books. In whatever situation he's in, many of which other people give up, he finds ways to create purpose for himself in it and follow his values. So the people and resources available change multiple times, but he does what he can with what he can where he is. So early in his flashbacks, he joins the army so he can protect his brother Tien, because he didn't want his brother to go alone when circumstances were not dealt right to Tien. So he formed some meaningful relationships and routines with his squad there, but later Amaram made him a slave, and even in that circumstance, Kaladin formed some pretty dang good positive relationships and routines. And then he was made a bridgeman. And we talked a lot about what he did there last episode. Despite being basically sentenced to death, he decided to treat it like a meaningful part of Sadeas's army and make the rest of his crew his family. Then, through more of his, I don't want to say it's good luck because I don't think it's really luck, more of his life crafting and just the way that he's approaching life, they're able to be made into Dalinar's guard. They're able to adjust and reframe their biases against Light Eyes, and Kaladin makes himself at home there. And then he plays to his strengths to create the Wind Runners. And later on, he's forced to retire from duty and has to reinvent himself as a therapist and had to fully recraft new routines and meaning in that role. So that makes a huge difference, honestly, in what Kaladin's able to accomplish. He's in pretty crummy circumstances for the first few books, and arguably it gets better. They're still in a war, so not everything's perfect, but he's still able to pull out of it repeatedly and make the best of his life through this job crafting or this life crafting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little introduction of Kaladin. Danielle, did you want to give us a bit more of a breakdown on job crafting or life crafting as it's now being called?
Yeah. In the job crafting world, it's traditionally sorted into 3 main categories, which are task crafting, changing the things you're doing at work or your life, right? Relational crafting, changing things with your relationships, and cognitive crafting, which is changing the way you're thinking about your work or your life.
Mm-hmm.
So you can job craft, life craft in all 3 of those areas.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. It reminds me a lot of the 3 realms, honestly. I don't know if you guys have ever thought about this before, but the task crafting, as we've been preparing for this and as we've been studying it, it reminds me a lot of like the physical realm. It's the physical of what you're doing. It's your tasks. And then you've got then you've got your relational crafting, which we're going to talk about it later, but there's a lot of connections and getting into Oathbringer on. Dalinar can see those connections in the spiritual realm. And then cognitive crafting kind of speaks for itself. Cognitive realm, the way we think. So,
oh my gosh!
No, I've never thought about it that way. So that's actually really cool.
Wow, that's amazing. Yes, we need to craft across all the 3 realms.
Yes.
Yep. And then when we bring it together, it's like a perpendicularity. Everything just comes together, and it's awesome. Spiritual power or spiritual energy. That's what they call it in there from the spiritual realm. I'm trying to think of a good real life word for it.
Look at Garrett bondsmithing.
There we go.
It's my order. It's what I do.
Right. But yeah, like I love how this is job crafting is like opening up your own perpendicularity to combine all 3 realms and really looking at how you can draw power from these 3 aspects of your life. And recharges you and provide you a renewed sense of meaning and motivation to keep going on.
From all 3 angles.
Right, from all 3 angles.
So we want to get into each of these 3, and let's start with task crafting, or as Garrett mentioned, the physical realm.
Yes.
The stuff we can do right here in front of us. This is what I'm best at. I am not a bondsmith and do not see well into the spiritual or cognitive realms. I'm not a health scholar or anything either. But task crafting is just looking at the nitty gritty of what are the things you're doing every day, and how can you increase your motivating and your productive things and decrease demotivating unproductive things. Increase your skills, increase your resources, just make the nitty gritty of every day go smoother.
Yeah, if we're not talking about Stormlight only, Steris is actually, she does a lot of task crafting too.
Yes, she is my soul sister.
I love Steris. She's my favorite. She's very good at this.
We'll get to the Mistborn stuff.
We'll get there. One thing I wanted to talk about with task crafting is the idea of flow from positive psychology. You get into a flow state when your skill level meets the challenge level of your task. So if you have something you need to do and it's too easy for you, you get bored, right? If it's too hard for you, you get overwhelmed. You don't have the bandwidth to handle that. It's draining, right? But when something is just right, when it's challenging, but you can do it, it's challenging, but you will be able to figure it out. You have momentum towards the next step. It puts you into this flow state where you're excited about it, you're engaged, you don't even realize time passing as you are just so in the zone and productive and effective with what you're doing.
A good example of that from modern media is actually like Soul in the movie, the Pixar's movie Soul. How when he started playing the piano, he just kind of lost himself in that music, and everything else started to tune out, and it's just him and that music at that moment. Yeah.
Something we can do with task crafting is looking for ways to increase flow, spend more time in flow in our lives, because we're happy when we're in a flow state, which Kaladin is amazing at. One of the things that there's a point somewhere that Dalinar points out that as his guard, Kaladin is never just kind of idly following him around. It's like some of the other guards will get kind of bored and just follow him around. But even though Kaladin, it might seem like an easy, boring task to follow Dalinar around,
nothing happens around Dalinar, obviously.
His life's so boring.
The stuff you don't see in the books,
Right.
Kaladin gives himself tasks. He's always alert. He's always, okay, I'm going to check this side. I'm going to check this side. I'm going to watch for this. And makes that task more challenging and engaging than he probably needs to just around the war camp. You're probably safe. But he finds ways to make it meet his skill level so that he can be alert and engaged. And when something does happen, he's the one that notices.
Right. And that just reminds me of when he's talking to Elokar the first time they have a meeting in Words of Radiance, and Elokar tells Kaladin, why are you looking on the balcony? It's impossible for an assassin to get in there. And Kaladin tells Elokar, then that's where I would go if I were an assassin, because no one's going to be looking there. So just showing that he's having this innovation, and eventually there is an assassination attempt on that balcony, which I thought was really interesting. But more to the point with what else I wanted to say is that Kaladin doing this is what makes him stand out to everyone. That's what makes him stand out as a bridge leader. That's what makes him stand out as a guard. And so in our lives, finding that good flow, as Danielle was putting it, I think that's really the key to standing out in your job, and especially if you're in a job that you really enjoy, and it's going to help you progress to new heights. And if it's what you're into, it's what's going to get you noticed as well.
The key here is we cannot be content with easy or putting in the most minimal effort, because that does not get us into flow state. If we're only content with the least exerting or the easiest way to just get by, we'll never reach that flow state. Kaladin isn't content with just doing the bare minimum as a guard. He actively engages with the task and finding ways to make that a meaningful thing.
Yeah, he's really good at increasing the difficulty of the task when needed. What he's not as good at is decreasing the difficulty of the task when needed. In Rhythm of War, he's the High Marshal Radiant, right? And he gets overwhelmed, and Dalinar pulls him off duty. And Kaladin needs that push to be able to be like, oh, I was overwhelmed. That wasn't flow state. That was overwhelm. I was pushing too hard. I was burnt out. And he needed that push to be able to practice job crafting the flow state the other way of getting it back to the skill and the challenge levels meeting rather than being in that state of overwhelm.
Right. And there are two ways to do this too, is that either you can, decrease the difficulty or find ways to reduce the difficulty of the task, or you can do things to increase your skill level. Right. Either of those things will help you be able to find and redefine that flow point.
Yeah. Do I need more training in this? Do I need, does this need to be easier? Do I need more help? Do I need, less of this kind of task?
Do I need to delegate?
Oh, another example I like is on the bridge crew when Kaladin starts doing the training sessions. He's doing multiple things. He's increasing. It's kind of, the bridge crew is kind of weird. They are both lazy and bored and overwhelmed and drained. Like their flow is not happening on both sides, right?
It's constant flip-flop.
Right. They're doing both.
When they're on the run, they're overwhelmed and stressed. And when they're not on the run, they're lazy.
Apathetic. Yes. So he takes them, when they're under engaged, he engages them. Let's do training sessions, right? And then when they're over engaged,
he provides that structure.
He's used the training sessions to increase their skills and provide a better structure for the bridge
Right.
runs to go better.
Yeah, he even like the whole thing with recruiting Lopen and stuff like that, and have them run water to everyone. Like all of that are part of that structure that he created, so that when they are typically in overwhelmed state, there are some support to help them decrease that stress. Again, yeah, I think this is a perfect example of a combination of changing the task and improving the
skills,
skill
resources,
resource level. Yeah.
As you two have been talking, it's reminded me a lot about a tool. It's not necessarily therapy based, but I think it could help a lot with mental health or whatever you are going through. And it's called The Working Genius by Pat Lencioni. He's a friend of Dave Ramsey. If any of you know, I'm sure you know Dave Ramsey, but if you know Dave Ramsey's team, that'll help you know Pat Lencioni. And a lot of what he does with his company is this new kind of assessment called the Working Genius, where he divides all work, whether you're in your actual career or you're at home or you're planning a vacation, all work is in 6 categories. I'm not going to go into all the 6 categories because he's got his own podcast. You can go listen to him about his Working Genius there. But the gist of it is that every single person has 2 categories where they are a genius in that category, where it's just, as you said, Joseph, with soul, it's just where you come alive. It's where you lose time. It just fills your bucket. You're always happy and getting energy from it. Then you have 2 that are just always draining you. He calls them your working frustrations. And so these are things such as finishing tasks or having to develop a new system. These are things that, depending on the person, they just drain them. And then there's 2 in the middle that you don't like them, you don't hate them. So they're just kind of in the middle for you. But it does help me think of the flow a lot of job crafting, because if I'm playing to those geniuses that I have in my Working Geniuses, the 2 that I have are called wonder and enablement. It means I like to think about things, hence why I'm doing a podcast. And then enablement, which is helping other people, which is why I'm in the career I'm in. So those are the things that are going to fill my bucket, and I can craft my life around them because I have those as guideposts. Values are good guideposts too. These are just the ones that help me think of my values, so that way I can craft my life in a way that it keeps me in that flow as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Yeah, playing to your strengths. Joseph and I do a lot of that in our marriage. I'm not familiar with the Working Genius, but my 2 are going to be very different than Joseph's 2, and we learned that very early on, that there's some things that he enjoys and he does well and productively, and there's some things that I enjoy and I do well and productively, and they do not overlap.
Nope.
So it works out. It's like, oh, this is a systems oriented thing, we have Danielle do it. And this is a relational oriented thing, we have Joseph do it.
That makes a lot of sense. And it still works for you. I think that's what's so beautiful about crafting, is that this probably gets into a little more about relational crafting, but you can make it work in whatever situation as long as you're willing to make it work. Since you guys are really different, I think me and my wife are probably more similar in in what brings us into our flow, or in our Working Geniuses, whatever you want to call it. And we can still make it work too. We just need to balance the things that we both hate, like paying bills. So
Right.
you can always make it work.
Here's the thing about job crafting is, if we just look at task crafting, then yeah, there's going to be things that you just are not going to like, but you still need to do it. So what can we do to perhaps reframe or change how we see those other tasks so that they are more doable, bearable, or even can become meaningful? And that comes in the other aspects of job crafting. That this is why we cannot just look at task crafting. We have to look at the other 2.
So with that, let's go to relational crafting. Is that the spiritual realm, Garrett?
Yes, because it builds the spiritual spider web of relations.
I love that so much. Relational crafting is crafting your relationships, your interactions with other people to increase your resources, to increase your motivation, increase your productivity. This is finding mentors, having people to give you feedback, having more meaningful interactions and less interactions that are draining for you.
Having people that you can collaborate with rather than doing everything on your own.
And I love the idea of the spiritual connections here, because just looking at you doing your job or living your life, the actions are going to be, other than talking to people, most of your actions are probably going to be the same. But that spirit, the feeling you have doing your job, might be different when you know you have these connections to other people. You have your mentors inspiring you, and your teammates working together. That's I love thinking about it that way.
You can almost see the investiture lines getting stronger as you're reinforcing this part of your interactions with others, and then something else getting stronger over here. This is going to be a total technical term, geeky moment, but it reminds me a lot of making one of those webs in relational frame theory. The gist of it all is that as you're going to build these connections, and it's going to bring more meaning into your life and into your job or whatever part of your life you are working on.
So Kaladin, one thing he does with the relational crafting is bringing people together. He's always, wherever he is, he's always creating a team and inspiring teamwork in that team. Between, Garrett went through the whole, Amaram's army, and then Slave, and then Bridgeman, and every single time he has a group of people together. And there's even that jaunt where he goes off and has some freed Parshmen. He quickly gets this group together and becomes their friends. Do you remember that? It's so small, but he's so good at creating teams. It makes his work more motivating and more meaningful.
Well, it's amazing.
And part of it is that he's able to identify what inspires these people and what they need, and then encourage them to live up to that and to do things that can help them get what they need. It's almost like he has that spiritual ability to connect with people on that fundamental level, to essentially inspire them to act.
I agree. I would love to see, I don't know if it talks about it in the books and I'm just forgetting it, but where he actually gets good at this, because it's before Way of Kings when he's in the Bridgeman and things like that. But when you go to his flashbacks, he is so bad at fitting in. He can never fit in with the other kids. And I'm just wondering where he gets it. If it just exploded one day when he was in the army and that was just his niche, or if something else happened. But I would just be so interested to learn where he got so good at it, because he's really good at it. And when he's helping the bridge crews, I know I talked about it last time, but it's going to come up again. The stews, it was just such a good idea to have them all eat together, to build in those times. He was intentionally making these times to reinforce it. And then it became something they all loved, even though at first people just kind of wandered in or grumbled about it.
Right. I think a lot of it came from his time being in Amaram's army, having to lead and become a leader in order to protect other people, giving them a sense of purpose and a sense of safety, a sense of family. And that is the first environment where he really needed to step into that leadership position and just learn all this stuff. So
yeah, there's a point at which at first it was all about Tien, and there's a point at which he kind of looked up and it expanded to everyone. It's a strength of his.
Yeah.
And he's able to bring that relational crafting to everyone else. That everything is more meaningful when you're doing it with other people. And you especially see it in the bridge crew, and we talked a lot about that last week.
Yeah.
But he was able to bring them all into this team.
And I think the part of it is also his training with Liren. I don't think we give Liren enough credit, because he sometimes makes it very hard for people to like him. But he is a surgeon, and his job is to heal people, is to help people, and not asking for anything in return. And I think some element of that Kaladin really took in and internalized it. Although he is doing more, rather than doing all the physical healing, where he shines in the relational crafting is he finds a way to heal and provide an environment for people to heal spiritually, and creating those moments for that to happen, creating the environment for that to happen. And just different skill set. Some people are better at one thing, and Larian is very good at surgical stuff, and Kaladin is much better at healing the spiritual stuff.
I agree. I really like that. I definitely don't give Liren enough credit, but he's definitely been a huge influence on Kaladin and bringing this part of him into existence.
One thing I just thought about with the idea of the spiritual realm, there's a point in Wind and Truth where Navani needs to connect to somebody in the spiritual realm, and she picks a mother with two kids, and she is able to think about when she was a mother with two young kids and draw that connection and then progress their quest from there. But thinking about that and then thinking about my experience at work, I had a time when I was doing a meeting with another therapist, and it was going to be a one time, like, it was a one time consultation meeting. And I went into it very task oriented, like, okay, we're going to talk about these things and then I'll never see you again. But at some point in that meeting, it came up that she was pregnant, and I was also pregnant at that time. And there was just this, oh, we're both pregnant, and this connection that formed, that the rest of that meeting, even though we still got the same, 4 or 5 tasks done and never saw each other again, there was something that was so much more alive in that meeting because we'd drawn that connection. I was in more of a flow state in that meeting.
Right. And it's finding that commonality between ourselves and another person that creates that relationship, creates that spiritual connection. Right. And that's one of the things we love about Dragonsteel is that the fandom, Brandon Sanderson's work is what unites all of these people from various backgrounds and walk of life, and we can just all be excited about these stories. And that's what connects us. I was in line picking up our badges for this year's con, and I just looked over, and there was this guy who's standing alone in line along with me. So I just asked him if this is his first time at Dragonsteel, and then we launched into a half an hour conversation while we're waiting in line. And it was just really cool. I never saw him again. I thought I would, but there were just way too many people, and I never saw him again. But I'll probably always remember that conversation because of how meaningful it was for us to just connect as strangers on something we both love. And we're gonna be different. Every person's gonna be different from each other, but if we look for it, there's always something that can connect us. And Kaladin is really good at creating those type of connection, creating environment for shared experiences for people to connect.
I agree. I love how you both gave an example of someone that you'll never see again, because those tiny little insignificant, you could say, moments probably made a lasting effect on that person and probably on you guys in ways that you probably can't even begin to understand. And that's how the spiritual realm is in Stormlight. No one can understand it. It's so complicated. Whenever they get a glimpse into it, it breaks people's brains. So I think relational crafting is probably something that we do it. We know that it's good for us. And I don't think we will ever realize how good for us that it really is.
Mm-hmm. Are there any concrete things people can do to do better relational crafting? I know we kind of talked a lot about these examples and these ideas, but like in practice, how can one do better relational crafting?
I think there's 2 main parts of relational crafting that I'm thinking of. One is just having those strong relationships. This thing that we've been talking about, just have more connections. Having more connections makes life better, right? But then there's other more concrete ways of relational crafting, that is, have connections that are going to help with the task. If you're doing your task crafting and it's not working out, finding mentors. When you're working as a team, having opportunities for feedback, for collaboration, like Garrett mentioned, that stew, making systems so that you have opportunities to connect and to help one another.
Maybe identifying like a shared goal or value for the team. Like, would that be a part of relational crafting?
Yeah, I think that's something that further solidifies the connection. Something else they talk about in relational crafting is, and it's hard to say this without sounding mean, but picking the people you're going to spend your time with and the time you're going to spend with them. An example from Stormlight is Kaladin learns pretty early in his efforts with the bridge crews that Gaz is not someone he likes to be around. Talking to Gaz drains him. Talking to Rock rejuvenates him. So even though they're both pretty hard or rough around the edges when he first meets them, he's able to get in with Rock and Teft and everyone and be friends with them. And he learns, Gaz is someone I have to talk to sometimes, but I'm not going to spend more time than I need to. And we all learn to love Gaz later, right? Gaz didn't need Kaladin in his life. He needed Shallan in his life.
Right.
But something that can help, especially in like a job situation, is how can I maximize the time I'm spending with the people that rejuvenate me? How do I, minimize, if I need to, the time that I spend with people that aren't, or make those interactions more streamlined?
Right. Because relational crafting isn't to say that you have to be friends with every single person and you have to give everyone you meet the time and attention, because you're going to burn yourself out. There's way too many people that you're going to come across on a day-to-day basis. But it is for us to think about what relationships are worth our time and our efforts in cultivating, and what are the relationships that we need in order to help us and help others to achieve the tasks and the goals that we have. And yeah, we all have a finite amount of time. Some people, they may not be ready to join in with your relational web yet. Like Gaz wasn't ready to be a part of the bridge crew at that time. And you can't force other people to be a part of your relational web. You can invite them, you can create an environment, but at the end of the day, you don't have to cater to every single person if they don't, especially when they don't want to be there. People pleasing is not the answer here.
I like that statement of, especially if they don't want to be there, because I'm trying to make to get this point across without, like, we're not trying to say exclude anybody,
right?
But Gaz excluded himself. So then Kaladin made sure his interactions with him were to the point and got back to the people that were rejuvenating him at the time.
Right, and that are actually contributing positively to his life. So definitely have good boundaries. We're not to say that you cannot have good boundaries here.
I agree. And it's okay if someone never becomes part of that web, as you were saying. They will find other people too. Sometimes the best thing is not to force them into a web that they're not going to be comfortable in, and you're not going to be comfortable with them there. It's nicer for everyone to have those, like you said, to have those clear boundaries to help them find their right place for relational crafting while you find your right place. We're still going to treat each other with respect, of course, and we can also treat each other with respect from a distance if needed. I have some people in my life that are great in very small doses, and that's okay. They have their own friend groups where they are great in large doses with each other, and it would completely drain me and I would be miserable. And that's okay. I'm okay with it. They don't really exclude me because I don't want to go.
I love that idea of dosing, though. Like in my life crafting, it might be really meaningful for me to be with this person for a once a month, whatever, but it might not be meaningful for multiple times a month, or it might, just depending. How can you craft that those moments you are with people are meaningful, are positive?
Okay. Next one is cognitive crafting. Well, let's step into the cognitive realms now.
I love that connection. Oh, okay. So cognitive crafting in the job crafting world is looking at the way that you think about, looking at the way that you see your work or your life, your responsibilities, anchoring the way you think about your life in meaning, and creating spread. Creating your idea of spread with the way that you think about your life and your job. Oh, I love it.
I'm losing the word. I cannot think of it, but you can also be when they change one thing to another. What is the term in Stormlight when they change something? Soulcast. Yeah, soulcast.
We take our hand that's dealt us and soulcast it into something else.
Yes.
Right.
With our brains.
Yes.
Right. This is cognitive crafting. It's soulcasting.
This is cognitive crafting. Wow.
Yes.
Hey.
So looking at Kaladin, cognitive crafting is where he does not shine as much.
No. Syl is the reason he can cognitive craft at all.
Yes. Yeah, Syl actually is pretty good at cognitive crafting. but he does it later, sometimes kind of after the fact.
Mhm.
He'll fake it till he makes it, or what is it? Do it until he becomes it. And when
Right.
he becomes it later, he's able to kind of go back and be like, "Oh, this was the meaning of this." But finding ways to take, this is the hand I'm dealt, these are the responsibilities I need to do, these are the tasks I need to do that I can't change, taking those and connecting them to our values.
I have an example of cognitive crafting in a job sense. So if you're a manager in your department, or if you're kind of like a team lead and you have people working under you, sometimes it can become overwhelming when we're seeing ourselves in that capacity as kind of we're responsible for everything and everyone, which is true to an extent, but a lot of managers and leaders, they become really overbearing and micromanagers very easily because they're focused on the result too much. I once helped someone to kind of reshape the way he sees his job as a director, as more as a choir, a symphony conductor.
Ooh.
As the conductor, you make sure the piece goes on. You make sure the things are getting done, and you make sure that the projects are moving. But you cannot be sitting in the trumpet seat and playing the trumpet. The person playing the trumpet needs to play the trumpet. You, as the director, you cannot do his job. And what you're doing is delegating and following up, checking in with each of your, you know, each section of your symphony, making sure that they're okay, they have the resources they need to play the piece. You're not there to play the piece for them. You're there to help them be able to learn what they need and have what they need to play the piece of music. And so after we were able to kind of do that, that really helped him to step into his work not as stressed out. And
Mm.
he now had a new way of seeing himself and the people working under him, and having more opportunities to allow his employees to grow rather than he needs to go in and do stuff for them. And so cognitive crafting is this changing the way we understand and relate to the things that we're doing, the roles that we're in, rather than from a I'm trying to provide this product to, hey, I am a conductor, and here is my team. Here's my orchestra.
Yeah, something that stood out to me as you were giving that was that it's not about the results that or they were too focused on. It reminded me a lot of, journey before destination. Something we talk about in Stormlight all the time is we're in a very
Hmm.
results oriented world, and a lot of
Hmm.
people forget to have that joy in the journey. Like we say at the end of every podcast, find that joy in the journey. And it's something
Mm.
that you helped that director do, is finding the joy in directing that orchestra instead of worrying about what everyone's going to think when the concert's over. He's just enjoying it in the moment. And something
Hmm.
that Kaladin had to go through quite a bit, especially in Rhythm of War, when he's having that beautiful discussion with Tien about everyone keeps dying, and Tien says everyone's going to die anyways. It's just amazing that you helped them while they were still there. I chose to go help those kids and die in the army, and it was beautiful
Hmm.
because I got to help them. At least they didn't die alone. And so having those shifts, so that way you're not so focused on every single perfect result, but you're focused more on that overall piece of music, that overall journey before the destination, can really
Hmm.
change all that relational and task crafting through that cognitive crafting into something more beautiful and better for your overall well-being in life.
Hmm. And that's not to say that results don't matter, but it is that when we focus on the right things with strengthening our own abilities and uplifting our team and doing all these things that are part of the process, it will naturally create a good result. Fixating on the result is not the way to do it. It's making sure that the process is meaningful. Then you will naturally have good results.
That comes from the way you're thinking about the process, which
Mhm.
in cognitive crafting, it's sometimes just the language that you're using. Kaladin and the Bridgeman, right? He started calling them his squad.
Right.
And as soon as this was my squad, not these are the Bridgemen on death row, like
Right.
it was different for him. I love the Vani has an arc where she's thinking back on her time with Gavilar and comparing it to her time now with Dalinar. And in both cases, she uses the words that she was running a kingdom for a man who was too grand to run it himself. And she did that twice, right? She did it for Gavilar, who is a horrible person, and she does it for Dalinar, who we love. But she notes that it's different this time. This time with Dalinar, she loves him and they're a team, and they've decided that she's going to run the kingdom because she's good at those kinds of things. Rather than with Gavilar, it was, we're not a team and you're not pulling your weight, so I'm going to do your job for you. When just that way that she was able to approach it and think about it allowed her to do the same job with
much greater meaning.
With more meaning, and approach it from a better place.
Yeah.
Which also relates to her relationship was in a much better place.
Right.
I agree with that. As we talk about it, I'm trying to think of how to put it in Stormlight expressions, because we talked about relational crafting and there's like this web that goes out to other people. And then with this cognitive crafting, I almost feel like it becomes it's another web, but it's in your head with all the little cognitive beads, in the cognitive realm, where they stick together and they can form things when you give them enough Stormlight, and they can change into other things when you soul cast. And I think that's something that cognitive crafting does a lot, where we're able to change things into the way that makes them best for us by coming at it the right way, by applying enough of that power from our lives into our cognitive realm, into our thinking.
I think there's two ways that it's coming to me to think about it. One is the soul casting, right? We're transforming it from
one thing to another.
Running a kingdom for Gavilar to running a kingdom for Dalinar. We're transforming it.
Right, we're transforming a stick to fire.
Yes. We're transforming the stick to fire with the way we think about it. But the other way I could think of is the way that the cognitive realm, like things manifest in the cognitive realm just from people thinking about them. Right? Like we are creating new things just in our heads. Like we are creating the story of our job.
In our life.
One of my favorite examples of job crafting is the idea of a janitor who it could be, I'm cleaning up stinky teenagers' bathroom versus I'm creating a hygienic environment for teenagers to come and learn in a high school.
Right. And some of them might decide to trash it, but that does not stop me from making it great every single day once they're gone. I'm
finding ways to relate it to my values, and I'm creating something new out of what's given me, which you can create new things in the cognitive realm.
Mm-hmm. Right.
No, that's true. I really like that. It's probably tough on some days when, there's that whole movement where people were taking toilet seats from bathrooms in public schools. I don't know if you guys were aware of this. It was a thing for a while that people would. Yeah, it was a TikTok trend where people would literally trash bathrooms and steal toilet seats. As a janitor, that would suck. It would be really hard to think I was making a difference when that's what was going on. And then sometimes you're going to have to consciously think about it in order to make those changes and change it from, yes, they trashed the bathroom and I'm going to fix it so that when they are ready to learn, they have a good place to go to the bathroom afterwards so they can focus on their learning. So it takes time. It takes a lot of change. And it's something I had to do a lot of, especially early on in our marriage. I just like to be a perfectionist, and when you're a perfectionist, there's a lot of times that you're hard on yourself. And so my wife actually made me use this little pink princess journal, and I had to write 10 things good about myself every single day. And if I got behind, I had to catch up. So sometimes I was writing 50 things in my little princess journal about the things that I did well that day. And it seemed silly every day, but I think it did a lot to change my disposition on life, that I was able to focus on those things more. And, Even the days she had to stick my nose in the book and say, write in it, it did help me in the end to do that cognitive adjusting. It helped me turn that stick into fire, if we're going to go back to our cognitive realm metaphor.
Mm-hmm. Right. And changing the stick into fire is not an easy task. Right?
I did not know this is where today was going to go. Go ahead.
Right. And so it takes a lot of effort, conscious effort, like what you said, Garrett. We're changing the way we think, the way we're relating to ourselves. We're reframing, taking off these glasses, and we're putting on new ones. It's going to take some time to adjust, and it's not going to feel all that normal at the beginning, but you will develop the skill to be able to soul cast your past disposition and beliefs into the new one, and anchoring them to what is meaningful and valuable to you.
Yeah, and I
agree.
think it's about connecting something to your values, not necessarily always changing. Like, you're going to have negative thoughts. You can't always change or get rid of those.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to remind yourself of your values and why this is meaningful when you're doing something that might not be something that gets you into flow.
Right.
When you're
relate
doing
to it.
Those hard tasks. I've had a Kaladin example, and now it's gone.
One of the ones that early on is when he said something along the lines of, like, I was a slave, but I don't need to think like one. He is in that position, but he doesn't need to think like one. He has that freedom. He has that ability to cognitive craft himself to help propel himself to where he needs to be.
Yeah, I really like that one. That's a good example.
Was that what you were looking for, or was that something else?
I was trying to go away from the CBT lens, and you took us right back to it.
Oh, okay.
But that's okay.
Go ahead.
That's okay.
Where are you trying to go?
I think I said what I need to say is negative thoughts come, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to change your thoughts. You just have to add some positive ones.
Right, or not think in the old ways that you've done.
Oh, you're so CBT, you're driving me nuts. We will have that episode when we talk about Kaladin as a therapist. We're going to have arguments is what we're going to do.
I'll just judge. I'll give out points.
Let's do that. That'd be so fun.
One of the things about cognitive crafting is we often need to do this every time we go through a transition, or even just job crafting in general. When we go through a transition where we need to adjust, typically some sort of job crafting or life crafting needs to take place.
Yeah, you know, find where you fit, find what fits as far as your tasks and your relationships and the way you're thinking about it.
Right. Because if we continue to use the old way of living in this new environment, sometimes that doesn't always work. And sometimes that's where the problem is we're trying to fit a square cube into a round hole. Right? And so allow yourself the opportunity to, are you going through any life adjustment or transition, recently, or maybe in the future? Those may be moments where you want to think about job crafting and life crafting and think about how you are doing in all these three realms and see what adjustment needed to be made to help you better be able to thrive under the new environment.
Yeah. Let's take that into our action item. So looking at your life, looking at what's going on for you, see if there's anything that's not working for you, whether it's a task that maybe you can change something about it or change the way you do it, change the skill that you have with it to get some training, or whether it's in your relationships or your interactions. Do you need more quality relationships? Do you need more or less frequency of certain interactions? Or looking at your thinking, is there some way in your life that you can think differently or talk differently about something you need to do that can anchor it in more meaning for you, that you can remind yourself of the meaning behind it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then I wanted to end on somebody in a really deep voice quoting Stormfather, that right there.
It is Odium's ultimate lie, Sons of Honor. The lie that says you have no choice. The lie that there is no more journey worth taking.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So thank you for joining us. We hope you have felt inspired to take the next step on your journey. Please share your thoughts and experiences and ask your questions using the comment function or by emailing us at fantasyframeworkstherapy@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. You can also follow us on Facebook for between episode updates. And remember to learn from the journey.
We want to thank Cryogenic Design for the art thumbnail, and Dr. Dave Schramm and Rex Polanis from the Stronger Marriage podcast for their mentoring in getting this podcast started.